Well, this sucks to see, guys. Dead Space is one of the best space horror games, well, just franchises in total ever. The original games are just so much fun, and hell, even the Dead Space remake that came out a couple of years ago is fantastic. But sadly, we are not going to be seeing a Dead Space 4 because it's not a live service game. Yeah. So, Dead Space 4 likely won't happen despite a fervent fan base, as it can't hit the numbers it needs, explains original producer. Former Dead Space writer and producer Chuck Beaver has explained that Dead Space 4 likely won't happen due to poor sales. Originally released in 2007, it has been a phenomenal horror franchise, which it is, it's so much fun, but the series is once again dormant. Following underwhelming sales of the first game's incredible remake, EA has shelved the franchise, with developers at EA Motive now working on Battlefield 6. Battlefield 6 is a fun game. I do think it's a better FPS than Black Ops 7, but come on. It's sad to see that this day and age we can't really get video games where people want to play them, but because they don't sell a lot, it's like, yeah, we're not going to do it. And then you got things like Mixtape, which is it's basically just a movie, not a video game. And especially Marvel Fighting Token, the one that's coming out later this year, which is a 10-hour single player, which is 10 hours of a comic book strip. You don't actually do anything yourself. And it's sad to see that games like Dead Space are not going to continue. But I can understand why though, because you do need the sales. That's the thing. And you need the sales to justify the budget for these games. Perfect example that we can choose is GTA 6. Supposedly, the budget for GTA 6 is like $2 to $3 billion, which they're going to make that back in the first couple of days, guarantee it. Launch date, they will make 1.6 billion guaranteed, and that is just if they sell 11 million copies, which we know they're going to sell more than that. That's what that is there. But seeing how games like Dead Space, which has got quite a big, fan base, but they're just like, yeah, we're not doing it. It does suck. So they have gone on to say that in the upcoming episode of the FIVR podcast, former Dead Space writer and producer Chuck Beaver explained that the numbers just aren't there to support another game in the franchise. As a AAA horror series with incredible production values, a new game would likely need to sell over 10 million copies. Yeah, it would. And say with that there, if they need to sell over 10 million, let's just say they need to sell 11 million. We're using the old GTA 5 scope for this. Now, when GTA 5 came out, it sold 11 million copies day one. And it made day one $800 million. That's when the game though was priced between $45 and $59 around there. So it's like, right, okay, that's what they need to do. But if they need to sell that, it's like you can't really bring the budget down. Well, I suppose you could if you cut out certain things. But the remake is so much fun. And it gets the atmosphere of what Dead Space is back into your hands. But the thing is though, I think if they decided to go towards making a movie, and if they got someone like John Carpenter, who is a huge fan of the game, he's like, I want to make Dead Space as a film. That would be phenomenal. It would be so good, and it would get interest back in the franchise. But as Beaver does go on to say, he goes, it never felt unfair at all for Dead Space to be cancelled after the third game, although it was sad for the team. It wasn't like, it didn't get a run out of it. I mean, it's disappointing that we can't make a beloved franchise to its logical end, but I guess I'm too much of a producer. I've been producing for too long. I understand the numbers and I understand what's happening, and why even Motive wasn't really greenlit for anything after the remake. That must be a bit of a kick to the stomach for the producers and the workers at EA Motive. Because you could be there, you've just made this great remake, reviews are coming in, players are loving it, and they're like, yeah, we don't know what we're going to do with you yet, just sit back and, sit tight. We'll let you know what's going on. It's like, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to be doing? How can we just sit here and not do anything? You know, it's sad. It sucks. That's the big thing. It does say that the Dead Space veteran explained, unfortunately, the numbers aren't there. While they admit that the horror franchise has a fervent fan base that is willing to invest in additional games, yeah, I would. Our fan base may not be big enough, though, for the production values that entrenches the series. Horror games have a bit of a ceiling, and I think the numbers back for former EA VP Frank's day was 5 million units to keep Dead Space going. I think the number is like 15 million units now, given the cost of things. It sucks. But I can see where they are coming from, and it would come down to the games and how many units it sells. But it sucks because this day and age, we are seeing games which they're not really that good. And especially with like Xbox and Sony at this moment in time, they're going through their catalogue of games which are just being made by AI slop, and they are taking them off the stores. But it's things like that now when you're going to get people like the former EA VP and all this kind of stuff, people who are now in those positions, they're going to be like, you know what, let's just use AI, get rid of these people, we can save money. And that's what Disney has recently done with a lot of the older Marvel artists, because you had a few people coming out who worked for Marvel, you know, some of the actors, and they've gone on and they've said, why are you getting rid of these concept artists? Because we're using AI. That's where it's going. That's where it's going, folks, and it absolutely sucks. But he goes on to say, though, Beaver does, that the situation is a sadness and capitalism for all of us to suffer. He jokes, until AI makes it apparently easy for you and I just type make Dead Space 4. Yeah, that's literally it. See, like what we were literally talking about. Beaver estimated that a new Dead Space title would likely have to sell around the 7 million unit to be as viable to be okay for him. Any of the Resident Evils are selling around 7 million units. That's a pretty good number. Yeah, it's for Resident Evil Requiem selling over 7 million units and it's getting huge praise. But the thing is, it's a great game. I really do think that if Dead Space came out and it had good word of mouth and you had a good campaign, marketing campaign this is, like Resident Evil Requiem, you could sell those games, you really could. But it goes on to say, though, that like you can make that hunt for some amount of stuff, but companies are now looking for the next Fortnite. Yeah, they need something that is a perennial moneymaker. Yep, something like a single-player package game with no live service offering. That's like it's just a dinosaur fossil of a business model. That sucks. It really is. If a game is not a live service game which is continually bringing in money and, oh yeah, we made so much money this day or that day or this month, they're going to be like, yeah, we don't want you. It sucks, but that's the way these corporates go. And it's interesting to see as well, because a lot of people have recently been talking about how you got like GTA and it's rinsing all the money and it's straining the last bit of money out of GTA 5 as it can. Well, when all they do is sell shark cards, but you can make the money in-game, but people just go, oh, I can't be bothered to grind, I'm going to buy a shark card. It's like insane. We saw it. In 2020, when it was lockdown, one person in America spent over $1 million, no word of a lie, over $1 million on shark cards. Why? Wouldn't surprise me if that guy turned out to be someone like Elon Musk or something. But anyway, this is what we got, guys, for Dead Space 4. We are not getting it. It absolutely sucks. Let us know down below what you think of this. As always, my name is Dan. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.